My role kind of involves a level of calling the meetings and kind of getting involved in any sort of coordination of commonly shared resources. And I'm working on a Broads curriculum. That's the ultimate aim of being at the moment, is to find a common thread.
What we've identified in recent years, and I think it's common to all organisations that work environmental education, is that there's a huge disconnection to nature amongst young people. I think there are some figures around that. I reckon around 40% of young people used to play outside in the 1970s, and now it's less than 10% who actually play in natural places.
When I was little, everybody played outside. I was lucky enough to live beside the sea, and I played on the beach. These days, children do not have the freedom like that at all. They're very, very wrapped up in cotton wool. Sweeping statement, but probably quite true. We want to encourage children to realise that the environment is a safe place, and it's a fascinating place as well.
I think right at the very base of my philosophy is a feeling that children have lost contact with the wild, with the natural, and it's to do with the way that we live and have done since probably the 19th century. A lot of people, there's still a lot of people were more connected then than very much more so than are now. I think art is something that is natural to people, making things, particularly, man the maker. And some would say, that's what makes us human beings. And if you stop making things, do you go on being a human being, really? Or do you start turning into something different? Does it matter? I think it does, personally, because I think it's very important to be able to have some kind of involvement in your environment, rather than always being given stuff that's already made by somebody else. And I think in simpler societies, smaller scale societies, there's a whole connection between healing and ritual and religion that now just doesn't exist, really. And I suppose I always felt that's what I liked in the anthropology that I studied, was that sense of connectedness, and I felt that we should try and rediscover it, and that there is something healing about the arts, and trying to kind of heal that broken relationship between human beings and the natural world.
The way I see education in Broads is about doing. I don't believe that people can really be engaged in the environment without having some sort of positive, enjoyable, fun experience in the first instance.
We had a fantastic moment last week where we had a group of 6-year-olds and we saw a swallowtail butterfly, and myself and my colleague just absolutely amazed. Like, this is amazing. Kids, look at this butterfly, it's massive, it's wonderful, and then spent longer explaining why it was so special, which was a brilliant moment, followed up by a Norfolk Walker dragonfly. So we were extremely lucky on that day. Lovely sunny day, of course, but that's what we do, is just take the kids around. We do a little boat trip, talk about what's on the river, how boating has been a great part of how the Broads has developed, and the conflict between tourism and conservation as well, which comes into it. It's a major topic at the school.
The philosophy is very, very simple. It's essentially getting the youngsters out of school. All children go on the river, they all go up to the Broad, up to Barton Broad, talk about how the Broads were formed and the environmental impacts affecting the Broad at the moment. They go over to the reed beds, over to the marshes, they do freshwater ecology, so they go and see reed growing. Depending on the season, they see reed being cut, and then they go actually have a go at thatching themselves. I believe even now we're the only centre that actually has a thatching frame, and so these youngsters have a go at thatching, and they realise soon afterwards, because they go in the thatched frame, water's thrown over them, and they realise perhaps thatching is not quite as simple as it seems.
So our big philosophy really of our education is to go to where people are, to go to their schools, to go to their cities, and to offer them opportunities to get involved with nature, to inspire them to all the awe and wonder of nature. We also want people to realise that everyone has a role to play. Conserving wildlife and special places isn't just something for organisations like ourselves, but is also something that everyone can play a role in their school, within their gardens or their school grounds, to give a home to nature.
So the curriculum is trying to pull a whole series of activities and resources together so that schools could follow a kind of structured pathway through national curriculum subjects through to gain some sort of insight, but embed the Broads, which is a national park on not local schools' doorsteps, into all their everyday teaching.
So many different options here, from the management side of things to learning about the wildlife, getting involved in actual conservation tasks, be it pulling up invasive species or weaving willow. I think is just one of those fantastic activities that kids can get stuck into and really involved in. But that all helps for the future, to get the kids understanding why they need to look after the environment and the home that they live in.